Hello everyone. Today I am going to be discussing the Altman Z-Score. So what the Altman Z-Score is it is a figure used to predict the chances a company will go bankrupt within the next 2 years, and this is going to apply to public companies. So basically what the score is it is an equation, and I'll go through that here. So the z-score equals 1.2a. We'll get to each of the letterings momentarily. So it's 1.2a times 1.4b times 3.3c times 0.6d times 0.99e. So all of the constants here are going to be attached with a variable, and we'll go through each one of the variables. They're all going to be ratios that are all items found on either the income statement or balance sheet. So that's why I would apply to companies, public companies, because you will need the income statement and balance sheet to complete all of these equations. But getting into each one, so here we have A. So 1.2 times A is going to be the first one. So A is just going to be the working capital divided by the total assets. Working capital is going to be current assets minus current liabilities. So that's going to be the equation for A, whatever that number is. You would just multiply it by 1.2, and then you would have the first part of the equation done. And then moving on to 1.4b, so B is going to be the retained earnings divided by total assets. And then in C here, 3.3 times C. C is going to be the EBIT, which is earnings before interest and taxes, divided by total assets. D, so 0.6 times D. So D is going to be the market value of equity divided by total liabilities. And what the market value of equity is it's also just going to be market capitalization. So it's going to be the total shares outstanding for this public company times the current stock price. And then lastly, we have E, which is going to be 0.99 times E. So E is going to represent sales, so revenue, divided by total assets. So once you get each one of these numbers, then you plug it into the equation, and then you will get a single number. That's going to be the z-score. And how it is scaled is going to be based upon a couple of different numbers here that you would be looking for. So if the z-score is below 1.8, that means the company is likely to go bankrupt within the next 2 years. And if the z-score falls above 3, then the company is not likely to go bankrupt. So this is kind of a broad measurement. Obviously, this can be wrong. So the accuracy I found from multiple sources was the z-score is 72% accurate in predicting bankruptcies for companies. So obviously, it's not going to be 100% accurate. This is kind of just like a loose guide that people use to see if public companies will go bankrupt. But by no means is it a definitive indicator or anything like that. And it was invented by the man named Edward Altman in 1968. He was a professor at New York University Stern School of Business, and he did create this z-score back in obviously 68, so that was some time ago. But yeah, it's still used. It's relatively accurate. This was actually a figure that was determined, I think, a couple decades ago. So I think in the 80s and 90s, it pulled around 85% accuracy based on the companies. So I think it's a little more accurate now just based on current company situations. But either way, it is still a good metric to use, whether you want to determine if a company is likely or unlikely to go bankrupt. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.